Our next presenter is Gain, and he is somebody who has an undergraduate degree in information technology. He has a facility for writing code that is quite impressive. I think he probably started when he was somewhere between, I don't know, 12 and 14 years old. And I'm really impressed how he took that talent and really directly applied it directly at the intersection of climate science and policy to an incredibly important issue in San Diego, and an issue that's relevant globally that has ramifications both for the public sector and the private sector. So I think with this topic and with what people want to be doing in terms of using their skills to produce capstones, Gain really nailed it. So it's a pleasure to introduce him, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Corey. So hi guys, my name is Gain, and today I'm going to talk about flexible transportation, and I'm going to tell you why it is a solution for reducing greenhouse gas emissions in San Diego. So let's start with transportation and greenhouse gas emission inventory. So if we look at the graph on the left, so we can see that most of the emission come from transportation sector, 29%, which is the top sector in the contributing sectors. And then if we look down into San Diego, the number even go up to 45%. So that's a lot of greenhouse gas emission from these sectors. So if we want to solve climate change, we want to reduce greenhouse gas emission, we really need to tackle transportation. And how do we doing that, right? So imagine this, right? Normally we don't have much choice in transportation. You either drive your own car or you take public transit. But then when you think about public transit, it takes a really long time when you want to go somewhere. You have to change, or you have to switch the bus line, you have to change the trolley. Sometimes it could take like an hour, but if you just drive alone in your own car, it could take only half an hour. So it's more convenient to drive your own car, right? But again, when we have a peak traffic in the morning, you could stuck in the traffic with your own car as well. So where's the solution for this? So you can kind of see on the left picture, there's a carpool lane. So maybe the solution is around that area, and I will talk about that. So what is fixed and flex transportation? So basically fixed transportation is basically the traditional fixed route transit that we can see. Either it's a rail, it's a train, it's a bus. So we have a fixed route that you have to go specifically, and then you have to go on to the station and then to get on the car. And then the capacity of the vehicle also fixed. So this is contribute to a lot of operating costs as well. On the other hand, we have flexible transportation. So we can see this example from Uber, right? Everyone knows Uber. So basically we can just input our origin and then destination, where do we want to go? And then it just come pick up us right away. And then we can also customize the vehicle size. Either it's a passenger seat 4 or 5, and then it's a SUV, or we can even go up into a shuttle. And the important thing is that we have a flexible route that we can customize based on the users. So my research starts by analyzing all the travel pattern in San Diego, and this is coming from the transportation activity-based model from SANDAC. You can kind of see here, this is all a mess, right? We all travel in anywhere to anywhere. So basically we don't go into the same place every day. And you can kind of see here, we have about 3.3 million people in San Diego, and that generates about 6 million trips per day. And so I'm using this data to conduct my research. And what I'm trying to do is, how do we move more people in a less number of cars? That's the ultimate. So looking from all the trip patterns that occur in San Diego, we can see on the left graph here that almost half of them drive alone. And that's really big part, right? Because that's take a lot of the space on the road. And from all those people who drive alone, almost 47% of them drive to work. So if we can bring these people together and then bring them to work together, we can reduce a lot of cars on the road. And then we can also reduce significant amount of greenhouse gas emissions. So my research focused on people who drive alone to work, finding a better way for them to commute. So let's look at the trips pattern here. So these are the origin and destination of people who drive alone to work. On the left side, you can see that the origin is kind of spread out across the San Diego region. So people tend to live in the suburban or in the city. And on the other hand, the destination is kind of more dense in some area. For example, Kearney Mesa, you see San Diego, and then a little bit of downtown as well. But the most important thing is that you look in the middle picture here. This is transit priority areas. So basically, half of a mile from all major transit stations. You can see that there is a misalignment that in some place that people live, they don't have access to transit. So how are they going to get to work? They have to drive their own car, right? So otherwise, if they take transit, it's going to take them a really long time. And I also calculated the distance from their home to the transit hubs or transit station. So you can see here the typical amount of length that people can walk is about 10 minutes or half a mile. And after this red line is too far to walk. So you can see that most of the trip are really, they live in the place that they don't have access to transit. So that's why we have so many cars on the road, and we need a better way to solve this. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for the current solution that we already have, and then I found SANDAG VANPOOL program. So basically, it's a program that brings people who live near each other and work in the same area to commute together to work. So it starts in 1995, and then basically all the passengers share the cost of vehicle and gas. And the driver is volunteered by the member within the group. But the things I really want to point out is that if you look at the numbers of VANPOOL in the program since 2016, around 700 van, and up until now 2020, 623. So its number is around the same, it's kind of go up and down. And also if we look at the ridership graph on the bottom left, so we can kind of see that decreasing trend, right? And then it jumped in 2018, 2019, and then due to COVID, it's going down again. So I really want to find a way that we can improve this, bring in more people who drive alone to work to actually participate in VANPOOL program. So what I do is I create a potential VANPOOL route. So basically by analyzing all the travel pattern in San Diego, and then figure out people who drive alone to work, and then I cluster them together by different zoning type, for example, zip code, census tract, and then I create a potential routes that we could potentially convert by switching from single occupancy vehicle to VANPOOL. And so this route can be used by SANDAG and then to target a group of people and then incentivize them to use the VANPOOL program more. So we also can prioritize each route by the route score. So basically the route score is how much that particular route has impact. And then we calculate it by the number of people who work on that route and then the distance. Because the more the people drive and the longer the trip distance is, that's going to be the higher total VMT, vehicle mile travel, that's generated. So all of this can be used to target people who drive alone to work. And so I calculate the benefit of the VANPOOL program by different scenarios. And so there's two scenarios. The first one is sign up rate. So basically how many people are willing to drive alone? How many percent of people who drive alone to work are willing to switch to VANPOOL? So it ranges from 10% to 100%. And the second one is group size. So it's a scenario that represents the ability of people getting together and form a VANPOOL group. So the VANPOOL is minimum at 5 seats, and then it go up to the maximum at 15 seats. So, and the benefit that I calculate are shown here below. So basically we could reduce the number of vehicles up to 50,000 cars, and also VMT up to 400,000 miles, and greenhouse gas emission 140 tons. So you can kind of see that the range is really wide, and that is because in San Diego, the region is really big, and people live across kind of spread out. But the things that I really want to point out here is the red dot here. So the red dot represents the current status of the VANPOOL program. So that show that we have a lot of potential that we can move number of VANPOOL up here. So if we can increase this number higher, that's going to reduce the higher number of cars, and then also reduce the greenhouse gas emission and VMT that we can reduce. And okay, so you may ask me, like, what influenced people in switching to VANPOOL, right? So basically, there are three main factors that influencing people: cost, convenience, and time. So according to Sandab, the average participant spending to VANPOOL is only less than $100 per month. So that's relatively cheap, even comparing to transit. That's because Sandab is subsidizing $400 per month. And about the convenience, right? So if you choose to switch to VANPOOL, you don't have to drive yourself, and you don't have to stuck in the traffic. You don't have to find parking. So that's really convenient. The bad side is only one thing: you don't have the car in the middle of the day. So you have to find somewhere else to go. So that's really the bad part. And then for the time, right? People who switch to VANPOOL can generally save about 15 to 20 minutes during peak hours, according to Sandab. And why? Because they can utilize the carpool and HOV network. And according to my calculation, 59% of people who drive alone to work are already going to the same road that already HOV lanes. Either it's I-5 or I-15 or other road, they're already eligible for that. So my main point is that, for example, we have bad part in, you don't have bad part in convenience. We can improve other factors. Can we subsidize more costs into the program to incentivize people to participate in VANPOOL? And here, another important thing is in terms of public spending, right? So if we look at the cost per passenger miles of the VANPOOL program, you can see that it's really cheap. It's 0.09 per passenger miles. Compared to bus, it's 10 times cheaper and 5 times cheaper than trolley. So this, what you may ask why? The reason is that VANPOOL is much smaller. The operating cost is much cheaper, and you get the higher number of passenger occupancy. One important thing is that people who travel in a van, they tend to go longer in a trip distance, 49 miles. Compared to bus and trolley, they only travel in a short amount of distance, 4 miles for bus and 6 miles for trolley. So it's really short. And sometimes the bus is running on a loss because there's no passenger. So, and the data in 2018 also show that the passenger miles or VMT reduction that we already get from VANPOOL is already 85 million. Compared to bus and trolley, that's a significant amount of VMT that we already reduced. So VANPOOL is really cheap in terms of public spending, and also more convenient for the people. So now you may ask, how COVID-19 impact on public transit in San Diego, right? Looking at the left graph here, so it shows the left graph, the red line, that's the mobility line that show the percent of people going to transit station. You can see that after March and the beginning of April, the number dropped by 75%. So people go to transit station less, a lot. And then on the right graph, that's the total driving VMT in San Diego County. The driving dropped by 80%. And around the end of May, and then the beginning, and people starting to drive more to bounce back, right? But if you look at the left graphic here again, the transit doesn't really increase that much. What increases other places like park, people really like to go to park, the green line here, right? But the transit is not really going up at all. But step back and looking at a longer trend. This is the 18 years data of the ridership public transit in San Diego. So you can see here that the ridership peaked in around 2013. And after that, it's all decreasing, almost 12% from 2013 to 2018. And then it increased a little bit in 2019. And then after COVID, it started decreasing again. So if you ask me whether we're going to get the amount of ridership back again to the peak, I don't think so, because this is the trend that happened everywhere across the US. the ridership in public transit is decreasing. And even, so we might have an increase in San Diego due to new trolley lines such as you see San Diego Blue Line. But in general, the bus as ridership, I don't think it's going to be increasing anymore. So in conclusion, this study used VANPOOL as an example of flexible transit in San Diego. And then the study created potential VANPOOL routes to replace drive-alone work trips and estimate the greenhouse gas benefit and VNP reductions. So this rule can be used by SANDAP to expand the VANPOOL program. And then, so future study can include more detailed cost model and then vehicle fuel efficiency and other things. Other trips, single trips, mixed trips, and then on-demand base can also include in other types of flexible transit solutions. And the last point is that flexible transit offer a much cheaper solution and to the public, and then a more convenient to the commuters. And this is a great opportunity that we can decrease vehicle mile travel and actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So with that, I would like to thank you, my capstone committee, Paul, Professor Ian, and then SANDAP staff member to support me, as well as my friend and family who inspire me and support me as always. And thank you, and I would love to take any questions.
Great job, Gain.
Thank you.
Excellent. So we have a couple minutes for questions. Again, for those of you who are attendees or who have joined in, you have a question and answer icon at the bottom of your screen where you're able to ask questions directly to Gain. So we'll wait for a couple of those to come in.
Gain?
Yeah.
How do you think, just a little more on, how do you think COVID-19 might impact how people are getting to work? I think the CDC's recommendation right now is actually people drive themselves to work alone. Mm-hmm. How do you think we could? I guess this would be something we'd have to put off a few years, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're gonna see more and more people do telework, but then the number of people who drive back to work is gonna bounce back, I think, because not every job category can work remotely. But the best ideal scenario would be telework. Yeah.
Next question.
We got a question coming in from one of the attendees. Could these VANPOOLs be electric powered?
Yes, actually I think we can even put biodiesel into the VANPOOL so it can be carbon negative. And with the efficiency of VANPOOL that is really small and is flexible, and it can take the passenger higher than typical Uber. So I think it's really efficient, and then in terms of cost and in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, so it's just really flexible that we can customize.
Awesome. All right, we'll leave it open. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Hi, Mark. Particular recommendations for UC or UC students?
Mark, would you say that one more time? It was a little quiet.
I was just wondering if there were any particular recommendations based on the patterns of people coming and going to see San Diego.
Yeah, I have to think about that. I think right now in UC San Diego we have shuttle bus, right? And then the shuttle bus is kind of run on a specific fixed schedule. I think we can improve that by change them into on-demand base, like maybe creating an app or calling to a phone. So basically the bus doesn't have to run with no passenger on it. And then it would be much more efficient if we just, go pick people up and then go to the destination. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So last question, Gain, it comes in from Sean, and he asked, what are the next steps with this research?
Well, I think I'm going to turn it into SANDAP, and then, yeah. So I really want to see changes in transportation, because a lot of people have problem with access to public transit, and we have a better option. We can improve this cheaper cost, and then improve access to people. as well as at the same time we can reduce greenhouse gas emission. So it's really a solution to many problems. But again, we have to take this problem in a multiple aspect, whether it's a cost, a personal level, or the city level. So it's a complex problem, and then we have to solve many things at the same time.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciated your talk.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Gabe.